Good evening once again. This is your boy Gentroos the DJ, your favorite economist analyst, your favorite broadcaster. Thank you, God. Thank you for the opportunity you have given me to listen to this YouTube channel. Um, Hope you enjoy. Today we'll be speaking about supply chain management. Like I told you that I'll be talking about it and how it has an impact in what's currently happening globally, and why things are at this way, and why things are changing drastically because of supply chain. But I'll cover a few topics. However, for supply chain management, it can be defined as the flow of goods, information, money for raw materials, and final customer efficiency. This is where basically supply chain is where when a product leaves a place. For example, a product leaves a warehouse in Ireland, probably going to Germany. A product has to follow a certain system. There has to be a distribution, there has to be scheduling, there has to be planning around the how the product will get to the final consumer. Like when you buy your turkeys, like when you buy food, how the process from food, for example, from the farms to the processing plant to the consumer to the final consumer, and getting the product in good form, in good shape. So I'll just cover a few topics. The first topic that I want to cover is supply network. Supply network is a web of supplies. Usually in the book supply chain management, there's a term called T1, T2. T1 is the first supplier, which is your reliable supplier. T2 is the alternative supplier. In these cases, for example, if there's a trade war, probably most companies, most petrol companies or oil companies have alternatives. Probably they'll go to the US or Africa or wherever they can have a supply, and the supply has to be reliable, and then it has to be checked. The finances, the track record, are they in good terms in terms of paying debts? Are they reliable? Have they worked with clients for a long time? And in most cases, in supply chain network, and need to build a rapport, and you need to build an important client base so that you can work together, because of supply chain network involves distribution, warehousing, storage, and storage, transportation, which is logistics, infrastructure, and until the last person, which is the consumer of the product. And there's the chain reaction also. So usually in most cases, other big companies, they just buy all the from the distribution to the warehousing. They buy the whole process to the raw material from the agricultural side, so that they can be able to provide the consumer with sustainable products at the most efficient time, at a good state, with good quality. And then the next topic I'll cover is technology. Technology is basically the tracking of the products. In most cases now we use CRM, is customer relations management, and softwares such as Excel, SAP, which is you can do live tracking, real-time tracking. You can see where the product is in real time, and then it gives you analytics on what's selling, what's going, what needs to be removed, what's what's stored, what's overdue and stuff. Because products like food, they don't stay much in warehouses. They have to be out in a certain time, and there are a lot of legalities that involve food. And then the next topic that I'll cover is risk management. This is the most important part, where even now when we look at the trade war and the disruption in supply chain and the economy due to the Iran and tension and conflict, and the Russian conflict, so there's a lot of problems that came in because of you can't use the ports, the airports are closed down, and Iran shut down the most important place to transport oil and everything. So risk management comes in uncertainty. What do you do? Like, for example, I spoke about T2, your alternative supplier. You have to have an alternative supplier for your product so that it can get to the final destination. And then what else we cover? Okay, with risk management, sometimes there are natural disasters that you can't control, or cyber attacks. Hence, you have to have a strong system, generally. And then we will cover the legal aspect. Legal aspect is very important, especially in the food industry, because if it's highly regulated, you deal with people's lives, you deal with people's well-being, and these are products that needs to be highly regulated. And again, with the sustainability, the packaging has to be at its minimum. So these are things that are that have to do with legalities, the documentation, the like, for example, if you want to supply for in another country, you have to look at quotas. Quotas, it's basically the amount of products you can send to a particular country. For example, if you send beef to another country, probably they already have the product. So probably in order to safeguard the economy, they might say a certain number of certain portion must you will pay a duty, or you just have to supply a certain number of quantity, so that they can protect the local manufacturers or producers. That has to do with legalities and economics, the tariffs, the quotas. That's very important that you have to know this. And in supply management, transportation, logistic, infrastructure, those you have to take into account with legalities and the documentation. Hence, it's very important to have a lawyer in business or in supply chain management. And then we'll cover inventory management. Inventory management, it's the stock. There's a saying in business, they say stock in where too much stock is tied up is money lost. So stock doesn't need to stay as much as possible in the warehouse, because you lose money on that. Hence, we have a method or a system that's called the economic order quantity. That's where you measure your stock, what you need from this, what amount of stock you need. And then you have system like just in time. You order as the product goes out. So as you get customers, then you place orders also from your suppliers to supply the end product. So it's just in time, it's agile. That's how the system works in just in time. The economic order quantity, it's the measurement of how much stock you need for the whole year, and what's the break even to make a profit, so that you cannot keep too much stock. in because of now economies are shaky, a bit shaky. So if you keep too much stock, you might as well lose on profits, and you won't make money, and the margins might be low. You have low profit margins. And then what again, yeah, so for today I'll just cover these topics, which is risk management, technology, supply chain, network. Basically these are the topics. These are just a few topics that I decided to cover today for this for today, and for this briefing. So yeah, that's how supply chain network is very important. And then there's disruptions. When there's disruptions, usually you need to come out with alternatives. And yeah, they are good. There are good companies that are good at that. One that we know, it's Macro is good at their supply chain management. Is where it's way out of top class supply chain management. Yeah, they are top class. To name a few, Zara also is one of them. They have top class. What usually Zara does is they would look at, because of fashion industry is always, it's rapidly, you can't predict it, and it's a hard industry in business, because of someone can just post wearing something, then it skyrockets, and then there's no demand in the shops. So it's a very volatile market. So what Zara did is they would look at different regions in different seasons. So probably if in Spain it's summertime, they will stock summer clothes. While when the summer clothes are done, when it's in the weather changes in Spain, they will take the clothes probably to another place, probably Africa or Asia, depending on the weather. However, the supply chain still continues. So that's how they manage their stocks, so that they don't keep too much stock tied up. And thank you for listening to my podcast, and thank you for listening to my YouTube channel. Thank you for sharing, liking. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for the advice, and I wish you all the best. It's your boy Gentroos, the DJ, your economist, your analyst. If you need advice for economics consultation, you can find me. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. Those social medias are available, and you can just send a comment on YouTube, and please subscribe. Thank you so much. I'm out.